Hot Mike Headed Withrow here at OutKick.com. Chad, we were discussing Indiana, the perception of Indiana last year to this year.
Yep.
To the point where
last year they were everyone's whipping boy.
Right.
No, the schedule's weak, and Indiana can't be this good.
Right. And then we're not trying to jump all over them now, but you have the Aggies from the SEC. You see their win total. And
are they this year's Indiana
sitting behind
in terms of people sleeping on them, even though they're an undefeated team in the SEC?
We go to TexAgs for the latest there. David Nuno joins us. Good to see you, man. Hope things are well.
Hey, buddies. How are you guys doing?
Excellent.
How much is the disrespect factor being played up there in Aggie land with the college football playoff committee?
Guys, it's weird because I like to get triggered and angry, but I just sometimes like to get worked up and I argue with people. But the reality is A&M's just got to take care of business. I think if they take care of business, it'll all take care of itself, right? Like if you beat South Carolina, you'll beat Samford, and you beat Texas, and you win an SEC championship game, you're going to be number 1 or 2 in the country. That's what I believe is going to happen. And that's okay. But I think where we have some issues is the way they talk about A&M when comparing them to Indiana.
Right.
I am totally fine with Indiana being number 2. Okay? But don't tell me it's because who A&M's beaten and it's because A&M's offense and defense isn't as good as Indiana's. That's where I have a problem. And then they talk about all the teams A&M's beaten in the SEC. Who's Indiana beaten in the Big Ten? I mean, Oregon win was fantastic. I know they got an Iowa win, and I'm going to give them their props. All the other teams they've beaten, aren't they 3-6 on the year? Like Michigan State, UCLA. So, and I happen to believe that the SEC is significantly deeper, that our middle tier teams would be upper echelon in some of the other conferences. And also when A&M beats them, right? A&M beats Auburn after they got robbed against Oklahoma. That would have been a huge win for them. A&M doesn't just beat LSU. They dismantle LSU. They beat them so bad that they had to fire Brian Kelly, right? They go and beat Missouri, a Missouri team that was top 15 on their backup quarterback by 21 points on the road. And then we celebrate Indiana winning against a Penn State team that was 3-6, also with their backup quarterback. But all we hear is, A&M's playing on a backup quarterback in Missouri. That's what Indiana just did by 1. So anyway, I don't like the argument.
I hate the shifting argument about different teams. What I hated about that first reveal was when they went in and started, and they said, well, we looked at it, and while Ohio State, Indiana, and A&M are all very good, Ohio State and Indiana have a better defense. And I'm thinking, well, okay, and who do they play? And here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize because they're just making it a math equation. They're like, well, they beat 2-7 Arkansas or 3-6 Auburn or 3-6 Florida. And I'm thinking to myself, Florida beat Texas, right? Arkansas lost by 3 to A&M. These are much better teams than the 2-7 and 3-6s in the Big Ten. Those teams aren't beating anybody. These teams are talented enough, even at the bottom of the SEC. We saw Kentucky take Texas to overtime. We saw Kentucky pound Florida this past weekend. We saw Auburn go on the road and take Vanderbilt, a college football playoff hopeful, to overtime. To me, that's the difference, David, right, is the depth of the SEC so much better than that bottom half of the Big Ten.
100%. And look, I think Texas Tech is legit good. I really do. I think they can beat some teams in the playoffs. But I also, who have they beat? We're talking about Utah and BYU. Okay, how do you think Utah and BYU would do in the SEC? Would they beat Arkansas? Maybe. I don't, so who have they beaten? People don't really bring that up as much. So, at the end of the day, if A&M beats a Texas team that's either going to be, with a chance to go to the playoffs or already out of it, but, rivalry game, and Texas A&M takes care of business against Lenore Sellers, I like their chances in an SEC matchup against Alabama. I'd like to see what it looks like. I think A&M can run the ball. I think A&M can beat you multiple ways. I think it'd be fun. And if all those things happen, and those are still big ifs because we know the margins are so thin in the SEC, which is why I give A&M a little bit of a bump because, I drink maroon Kool-Aid. That's true. I'll admit that. But the way A&M's beating most of these teams, if you watch the Auburn game, it was 16-10. It wasn't 16-10. It was a beatdown. You saw what happened at LSU. They should have been up at the half, 21-9. They were down 18-14. What did they do? Score 35 straight unanswered points. What did they do against Missouri? They Heisman posed them all game long. They just kept them at arm's length the entire game. So it's the way they're beating teams, is the eye test I like to watch. But this is what makes college football great, right? We can argue with folks on Twitter from Indiana, from Ohio State, and it's funny. My show's getting more Ohio State viewers than ever. I'm like, why are they watching? Thank you. Subscribe and like the content.
Right.
The content.
Ohio State fans love feeling aggrieved in some way.
Yeah,
I've
insulted
noticed in some way. Yeah, they're always
insulted. You're talking about.
They're
Indiana.
always looking for the insult wherever it may lie.
Hey, if you like the channel, become a season ticket holder for Hot Mic by clicking the subscribe button below and join the conversation in the comments section. Agree, disagree, we'll join you there in the chat. Now back to Hot Mic.
I think I know the answer to this question, David, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Rooting interest for Aggie fans with Texas at Georgia this weekend. And hear me out on this. I know the answer is probably you always root against Texas no matter what. But if Texas wins at Georgia, you got a chance in the final game of the season to knock them from the college football playoff. If they lose at Georgia, then it's just Texas with a chance to save their season with a win over undefeated A&M at that point, more than likely. So are there any Aggie fans that are actually hoping Texas wins so that game is even more impactful than it already is at the end of the season?
I've heard that. Yeah, there are fans that want that. They want it to have more stakes, right? They want it to be a big deal. Just kind of like last year where I didn't really believe A&M had a chance to go to the SEC championship game after Le'Veon Moss got hurt. But that last game, had they won it, they would have gotten into the SEC championship game. There are those fans. This is who I am. I want them to lose every game they ever play by 50. That's a fact. I would love for them to go 8-4, so we can talk about Texas 8-4. And honestly, I would prefer them to go 7-5 and lose to Arkansas. That would be my wish. But look, game week, it doesn't matter. That game's going to matter regardless of their record. It'd be great to have it really mean something and end their season. But I just enjoy watching them lose. And I'm having a hard time figuring out who Texas really is, because the team that beat Vanderbilt, for the most part, looked pretty damn good. For the most part. The team that beat Oklahoma looked pretty damn good. The team that squeaked by Kentucky did not. The team that played Mississippi State, for the most part, did not look good, but they got the comeback. So are they one of these teams that is figuring it out at the end? I think we're about to find out this weekend in Athens.
What percentage do you give to Marcell Reed to win the Heisman?
I would say not as high as I want, because I believe I think the off the field, some of the campaigns going on that are just grassroots, the chants, and I think all that is going to take him to another level if he keeps playing at this level. But I think what most people think is A&M is winning with Marcell Reed, and he's certainly a big factor, but they can beat you with Cassius Howell. They can beat you with KC and Mario. They can beat you by running the ball. And I think that could hurt him with votes, because they're this A&M team is just a well-rounded team that plays great complementary football. If you're talking about the best player in college football. That being said, if that scenario earlier where A&M goes 12-0 and wins an SEC championship game that, I think that changes the whole conversation regardless. If you're on a 13-0 football team that just won the SEC and you're the quarterback, and by the way, I love saying this. I've been saying this since last year, guys. Marcell Reed was not the reason A&M lost games at the end of the year. The Texas game, the offense didn't get going. And Texas had a great defense. I'll give them their props. But he constantly put A&M in position to win games in the last minute. They took the lead against Auburn at the very end. That was him doing that. They took the lead against USC in the last minute. It was him doing that. It was the defense that kind of failed Marcel last year. So he's been playing at an elite level at the end of games for a while. The defense did not carry their weight last year. This year, for the most part, they've carried their weight. They give up some explosive plays, but they're number one in sacks. And if you just look at scores outside of a handful of games, 2 games, what they do is keep teams to 17, 20 points.
We're biased. We covered Marcell Reed in high school and state championship games here at NBA in Nashville. I hope he wins it. Of the guys that are up there right now, that's my top guy with what he's done for that A&M program. And we can't not have you on here and not ask about Mike Elko and what he's meant to this program too. And what I admire about him, David, is that he's not one of these guys whose name's floating at a lot of the openings that are out there. I feel like he's the opposite. He probably tells his agent not to engage in that type of stuff, right? He seems like such a football guy through and through that's just happy to be somewhere where he's having a lot of success, that you got to feel really good about that if you're an A&M fan. You don't have Brian Kelly as your head coach, right? Let me say it that way.
Yeah, for some reason, and I know the reason, he just comes across like a dork, but I've never liked Brian Kelly, right? Like, I just haven't.
I don't know who likes him. Like, when he gets fired, like, what former players go to bat or former coaches that coach with him for Brian Kelly? Like, there's no one that's sitting there, pleading with LSU because they did the wrong thing because he's such a great guy.
There's not many coaches who follow him.
Yeah, I don't hear any of that about Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
And by the way, Jimbo, who had his issues at the end, and their career arc kind of looks similar, but Jimbo had people who loved him. And I think Jimbo also, he lost his fastball, and we've talked about that in the past, but he also had a lot of misfortune with quarterbacks constantly going down. But Jimbo was loved. As for Mike Elko, this guy, I'm telling you, I only got to work covering him for 1 year before he became the head coach. The 21 season was his last year here. And everybody around town was telling me, dude, this guy's going to be a head coach. He could be the head coach here one day. That was the vibe around it. Former players, the moment it was announced, he was the guy. They're like, uh-oh, you guys about to find out what Coach Elko's all about. Everything that we were promised, everything that we thought about him has come true. And I think the biggest reason is there's no BS with him. If you don't fit his evaluation, he'll tell you, like, hey, you think you're worth this? We think you're worth this. No big deal. Go do your thing. If you don't fit the culture, you're not coming in. If it's all about process, it's all about working hard, and that's what they do across the street. And honestly, like last year was a lot of misfortune when they lost Le'Veon Moss. This year they lose Le'Veon Moss, and look, there's a little bit more depth, but there's also the culture that starts with Mike, right? They know, everybody knows it's about finishing games and finishing the season, and that's what we're seeing. And last year, he'll admit they did not handle success well. This year, at very minimum, they're a 10-win team, more than likely an 11 or 12-win team. I think he's just got this blue-collar mentality that in this community, it just fits not only the locker room, but it fits everybody that supports Texas A&M.
David Nuno gets it done. TexAgs is fabulous. Great work, as usual. And we hope everything is well. Hopefully we'll get to see you. Maybe along the college football playoff path.
That would be awesome, guys. You guys know this. I brag about you. You're like my favorite show. Like, I love watching you guys, and Nick and I always talk about when both of you come on the show. It's our favorite. So thank you very much for having me.
You stay on air like all day. Every time I look down.
Yeah, we love going on your show too. Yeah, keep up the great work. And happy to do it whenever. And of the 24 hours you guys are on air, one of us, me or Hutton, will be awake at every hour at some point with the hours we keep. So you can have us on at any time.
Hey, guys, with NIL and some of the interviews we do, we're literally on air all the time.
I know.
It's a blessing, man. It really is.
We got to get back to College Station.
We'll talk buckyball next time he comes on with us. Right now, it's all football all the time,
right.
though.
Let's do it, guys.
Thanks, David.
Nuno always gets it done.
So good.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to OutKick Hot Mic.
Daily content and more at OutKick Hot Mic on YouTube.